go!
I believe video games are a form of art. When I say art, I'm not referring only to the aesthetics of the game in question, but more from an intellectual sense of how it rationalises its themes and messages to the player, much like how an author gives descriptions within a novel for the reader to comprehend. Conceived by two developers, Camoflaj and Logan Games, République is an engrossing title with simple stealth gameplay but complemented with an evocative story. Initially designed for iPhone devices, the game was then ported for multiple platforms such as the PC, Android devices and the PlayStation 4, which is the version I'm going to be reviewing in this video. So is République worth the investment? Let's find out.
Let go! Do you see me? Wait. Please, I need your help. I don't have much time. They want to erase me. They want to erase who I am. They're coming.
In République, the game takes place in an unknown totalitarian state called Metamorphosis, in which the Prizrak perform experiments on inmates called precals, people who were born and raised in the facility. You play as Hope, a female precal who finds herself in trouble after reading something that's prohibited and pleads for your assistance. After being taken into a confinement cell, Hope tells the player she insists to escape from the facility, and it's up to you as the player to guide Hope to the outside world. Along the way, Hope will uncover the truth about Metamorphosis, the intentions of the Prizrak, and cover her own backstory as well how she ended up in the facility in the first place. The story takes inspiration from George Orwell's book 1984, which creates a depiction of a dystopian future where conformity, surveillance, control and corruption are ruled with an iron fist. Brendan Murphy, who wrote the story along with game director Ryan Patton, decided to make the game in an episodic format, primarily because they believed that making the story 10 hours, which is the average playtime in games these days, would risk multiple plot holes developing. République effectively blends its story elements with its gameplay to draw you into its world, as audio tapes, books, floppy disks, news articles and much more can be found throughout the facility. Even though these collectibles are optional, they do serve a significant part of uncovering Hope's backstory, the facility she's trying to escape from, and reveal the revelations of the people she initially supposed to quote-unquote trust. One of the problems when it comes to storytelling in games is when it tries to make them look like films. This is mainly because some developers don't take into consideration that video games have a level of interactivity, as the player is not only observing their avatar in a specific situation, but they're controlling them as well, something that's not possible within other sources of media such as novels and films. Moreover, this lack of understanding could make the gameplay and story too distant from each other and could potentially cause conflict between the two. Volume, a game that I reviewed a while ago, tries to tell a story about social commentary and how it affects us in our society, but since it was poorly implemented within the gameplay, the message it was trying to get across wasn't effective despite the superb voice acting. République, on the other hand, manages to give a sense of world building via fusing its story and gameplay together, as the items you find throughout the levels you'll be able to piece together to form its grand narrative. Even though the game is short compared to AAA titles, but due to how much lore there is to be discovered, it makes the story much longer than it is, and since you're still in control of the main character, it doesn't sacrifice its gameplay to achieve this. I'm not saying cutscenes are bad in any shape or form, as they do have a place in games, but most of the time they're used for the wrong reasons. République manages to use its cutscenes to give context at the beginning, and at the end to set up a cliffhanger. I'll probably do a separate video discussing about cutscenes in games, but that's for another time. It's also worth noting the main character is female, which unlike most female characters in games are either accused of being subordinate compared to their male counterpart, or being accused of being overly sexualised. I'm looking at you, Overwatch. Hope is a naive protagonist as she doesn't know the true colours of her foes, but throughout the 5 episodes she starts to comprehend what the Prizrak are doing to other inmates within Metamorphosis. Not to mention the voice acting throughout the entire cast is excellent, which makes the characters convincing within the single player campaign. These range from Jennifer Hale, which you may recognise as Commander Shepard within the Mass Effect trilogy, David Hayter, who is known for providing the voice of Solid Snake in the Metal Gear Solid games, and of course Renna Strober, who voices the main protagonist Hope. République's narrative illustrates the many factors of censorship, control and conformity, and how it could inhibit who we are as a species. In the game, such methods like certain books being prohibited to what the precals are not to read, what is considered to be quote-unquote ethical as far as progression is concerned, and even the media manipulating its viewers to what is really true. These practices may look ludicrous, but with corporations controlling those who want to express their opinion on a specific subject isn't so far-fetched. In the real world, Nintendo has a hatred to those who want to upload games from them. Those who post footage of their brands, they'll take away revenue from those who use their property, even if they're partnered with a gaming network, which allows them to post and monetize gaming content without running into any lawsuits. Because of this, it not only inhibits the YouTube channels promoting Nintendo products, but it hurts the company, as those content creators would most likely stop supporting them. Also, with Nintendo planning a new console in the not too distant future, do you think they'll be able to compete with the likes of the Xbox One, the PS4 and the PC as far as advertising is concerned? You can only take a certain practice so far, and as far as their current mindset is concerned, their anti-YouTube policy is detrimental to the company's progression. This also leads into the YouTube's Content ID system. Initially, the system was put into place to prevent the site from being sued by third-party companies for those who infringe copyright laws. While it sounds like a rational decision on paper, unfortunately the system is flawed due to many users able to abuse the system for all the wrong reasons, even if the video is classified under the Act of Fair Use law, which is considered the exception of uploading third-party content to the internet for criticism, comment, education and parody. Because of this, many YouTubers such as Angry Joe, Nostalgia Critic and many more have pointed out the numerous issues that are problematic, and between late 2015 and early 2016 there was a campaign to promote the fair use policy known as Where's the Fair Use, or WTFU in short. If there was no such thing as fair use, it would hinder freedom of speech, and it would harm creativity for those who want to express their opinion in a certain way. Additionally, the terminology of a review would be made redundant because the critic wouldn't be able to criticise the product in question. These are some examples République illustrates, and while I may be talking about these in such detail, that's because there's so much you can say in a concise review. As I said earlier, the game is set over the course of 5 episodes, which you'll be doing a lot of stealth manoeuvring as well as hacking your way through each area. The controls do take some time to get used to, but over time moving Hope around and interacting with the environment becomes second nature. Aside from controlling Hope, the player is able to use security cameras as well as other electronics in the environment via using OmniView. Not only allows the player to see what's lurking around the next corner, but they also have the option to gather vital information. République effectively changes up its gameplay by adding in new elements without making the experience mundane. For instance, in the 3rd episode, I was tasked to investigate certain cases from the outside world and create an article according to what really happened. This was not only satisfying to do, but it also moved the plot forward and facilitates Hope's character arc. In the beginning, you will be limited with your hacking abilities, but as you collect data from your surroundings, that information can be exchanged for upgrades, such as seeing enemies through walls, cause distractions to draw NPCs away from your position, and much more. The catch is by using these abilities, it consumes battery life, and as such it forces you to be resourceful for when to use them. Thankfully, these abilities are not mandatory for your avatar's survival, as it's possible to play through the entire game without using any of these traits. Furthermore, the player can recharge their battery either at a phone terminal or by finding batteries within each level. There are weapons like tasers, pepper spray and non-lethal mines, but considering resources are limited, generally they are mainly used as a last resort, primarily if you've been detected. However, if you get caught unarmed, then you'll be transferred to the nearest containment cell. Thankfully, you can break yourself out when that happens and you don't lose any progress. Keep in mind that you will be stripped of your items, and the only way you can get them back is by pickpocketing the guard that found you in the first place. For a low budget game, the presentation on the PlayStation 4 looks good. The environments have a great attention to detail and look distinct in each episode, and the character models, although not as graphically sophisticated compared to their environmental counterparts, do look convincing due to some excellent motion capture. The music is also a standout in République. Composer Zinc Lemon adds a combination of ambience and orchestral themes to the game, which adds towards the dystopian atmosphere République wants to convey. While the game does many things right, it does have some problems. First of all, the time it takes to switch between from one camera to the next is inconsistent, and since you'll be doing this a lot throughout the entire game, it can be a nuisance. Also, while sneaking past enemies is satisfying, the AI is basic as their patrol paths are too predictable. Even though the game does change things up with different NPCs to encounter, but the AI could add more development to make them more dynamic. Finally, République does promote a lot of backtracking despite being a linear game, but I didn't find this much of an issue since I was engrossed with its well-written story. In short, République is a fun stealth game with an engaging yet evocative story. Although it has multiple shortcomings like the basic AI, the amount of backtracking you'll be doing, and the time it takes to switch between perspectives, just to name a few, the game makes up for these with its engrossing story, superb voice acting, engaging gameplay and an immersive presentation. Not to mention the soundtrack composed by Saint Lamone is also excellent. This game may have been developed on a small budget, but if you're into science fiction and stealth, République is worth checking out.
Je